I'll call this August 3rd, Planning Commission, meeting to order. And apologize, we, are eating at the same time that we'll be talking. Or kind of. So with that, I'll open it up to, any public comment that we have. Yes.
Well, good afternoon. Looks like a really nice lunch there. Paul Trask, 610 Bladen Street. If I may, I'm really glad that this is the beginning of the comp plan review, and I've prepared a little document. I'll read it, but I also, with your permission, I'd like to hand a copy to everybody.
Sure.
Okay. I hope I made enough copies. So I've been thinking a lot about the comp plan. And looking forward to looking forward to this opportunity, because I've got a number of issues that I think may not have been addressed in prior updates, but so if I may, and I'm going to ask if this can be incorporated into the minutes of this meeting, please. This little handout. So the South Carolina Act requires the Commission to consider not only growth and development, but also the wise and effective use of public funds, community of facilities, and fiscal impact of government decisions. As Beaufort plans for the next few years, I believe the comp plan should look beyond land use and zoning for a few more broad questions. Downtown governance. I think that it is a great thing if we can recommend a study replacing the downtown operation department with a citizens advisory board, at least to try to understand the how that might impact the downtown. I think the merchants and other citizens can do a very effective job coming up with policy recommendations for council. We've got a tremendous budget. I believe it's approaching $1 million a year for downtown operations. So I think a study to determine whether that is really necessary is pretty important. Police services. I think that a study should be conducted to make a recommendation or flesh out whether it's advisable for the City of Beaufort Police Department to perhaps be merged with the Sheriff's Office, so that the Sheriff's Office might provide police protection similar to what's being done on Hilton Head Island. A couple of issues about fire protection. We've already begun that merger, so Beaufort, Port Royal, the Burton Fire District, I think, is still independent. But in order to eliminate building fire stations that might overlap each other and to have more effective use of taxpayer dollars, I think that further study ought to be undertaken to see if further merging of the fire departments is warranted. In addition, I want to ask a question about the ISO rating number 2. Fire department is very proud of that, and I understand that, and that's a wonderful thing. But as a practical matter, does it really matter? Do we really need to buy a brand new hook and ladder truck for, I think, what, $500,000 or more, 600,000, when we've got perfectly good equipment just in order to keep a Class 2 rating? And this is hypothetical, but would a Class 5 rating really mean any difference in practical terms of protection? And would it diminish our, or increase your rate on your insurance? I don't think so. So I think a study is warranted on that. The next one is a really big one for me. I've, by accident, really discovered this through a FOIA request, the lease situation with Safe Harbor, some time back. And I believe in reading that lease, which is really not good for the citizens, very lopsided in favor of Safe Harbor. But I really think that a smaller municipal marina focused on the citizens who live here as opposed to large yachts that Safe Harbor wants is really what our marina ought to be about. A smaller marina that's sized appropriately for our downtown historic district, in my opinion. And I think a study for that is warranted. And I would call particular attention to the requirements under the current arrangement that require taxpayers to replace the fuel tanks, which are an environmental hazard, to replace all the infrastructure and the lines that go down onto the docks. And I question whether it's even necessary for our city to dispense fuel at our marina when fuel is available right down under the McTier Bridge, just down the way. I'm a big believer in the city performing its core fundamental responsibilities, police, fire, public works, really well, and not focusing so much on a lot of the extras. So leading into that, I have very serious, and I've spoken at many city council meetings about strategic partner funding. I am appalled, frankly, at a lot of the spending that goes on. And I want to call your attention to the last page of this handout, which is an email from Mr. Eisman, the city finance director, to the city manager, written in March of last year. Apparently in response to a question of how much money has this city spent on the digital corridor? Well, Mr. Eisman says that this city has spent $1.3 million on the digital corridor. And this is just shocking because I can't see any tangible benefit which has resulted from the digital corridor. Nothing, zero. And I'm sick of it. And I have said that at numerous council meetings. I've called for the selling off of whatever's left of the park and not giving one thin dime to the Beaufort County Development Commission, which is not doing any of us any good, in my view. So I think this is really an important issue for fiscal responsibility, which really goes to me to the heart of much of the comp plan review. Along with that would be a review of city-owned properties. So putting a very expensive roof on the Carnegie Library building, that building ought to be sold and turned into a lovely office and go back on the tax rolls, or it ought to become a really nice restaurant. You know, the 500 Carteret building, you know, I've just spoken about the digital corridor. And basically it houses downtown operations of the digital corridor. That's basically it. We use conference room every now and then. So it's not an effective use of our tax dollars. They want to replace the windows for $100,000, you know, and on and on and on and on. So in conclusion, I hope that this committee might consider some of these proposals, and I know it's going to be a long process of, I believe, 9 months. It's anticipated, and I would hope that some, if not all, of these issues, and perhaps others that come up from myself or others along the way, will be part of the consideration aside from just pure land planning. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grass. Appreciate it. We definitely will be looking at these.
I mean, this is just, I think the fire department has class 1 rating.
Is that the best rating?
Right, yeah.
Is that what that means?
It may be, I thought it was class two, but it may be, and I'm happy to answer any, or respond to any of my comments if anyone has a question.
Well, I do actually, Paul, you don't mention any particular strategic partner funding concerns. Can you elaborate on that?
I can. So for example, one of the strategic partners is the Beaufort County Development Corporation. And they wanted to do a spec building, and so what happened with the current spec building in the city park is it cost about roughly $4 million to develop. And the developer wound up, after it was leased up, it was supposed to provide, the theory was it was going to provide jobs of $60,000 to $70,000, when really all it ever did was provide a lesser number of jobs in the $30,000 to $40,000 range. And so the developer, after an investment of approximately $4 million, sold that property for $6 million. So the developer made all the money. The city took the risk to help fund interest carry during a part of that. And so now they propose to do that again. And what they want to do, the Clarendon sale that you might be aware of, which really gets the Commerce Park out of the woods, so to speak. $2 million, I think $300,000 odd sale, where Clarendon is going to purchase, maybe they've closed, the western side abutting their property already to create a buffer. And they're going to put that into conservation. And so this is a long story, but somehow the Beaufort County Economic Development Commission, Mr. O'Toole, they inserted themselves into the deal and said, well, we're going to take $1 million of that $2.3 million and we're going to put it into another spec building. And there were a number of us that stood up at city council and said, no, you're not going to do that. Not without public. It was never discussed. All of this is being discussed in executive session. It never comes out in public until the very last minute. So those are my issues with the Economic Development Commission, which is one of your strategic partners. Another, of course, is the Beaufort Digital Corridor. And if you go down there, I think it was patterned after a digital corridor that was formed in Charleston when the naval base closed. And I think they had some modest success. So they tried to pattern that down here. Well, they had a Japanese flying car company. And I think that one's still on the books. And the Japanese flying automobile company had a test location in Greenville at the Greenville Municipal Airport. And that's it. And I don't think they've basically produced anything of tangible value. And so and now come to light, here's this email that says, well, we've spent $1,300,000 dumped in, not to mention the cost of operating the building. It's time to stop. And it goes to the point of let's take care of our core functions in a really good way. And let's not try to diversify ourselves so much into the weeds that we do a poor job.
Thank you, Paul. We hear you. I'm not sure how much of all of this we can actually deal with under the purview of the planning commission. I think a lot of it has to do with city council, but I think all of these issues are pertinent, and I think we'll take a look at every single one of them.
If I may, just one other quick point, and I think you're right. And as I say, I think that my frustration stems from going to council directly, speaking to some of these issues, and basically no response. And contrary to that, they continue to fund these things, for example. And so what I'm hoping is that the comp plan review will ultimately have a basket of aside from land planning and all the more traditional things perhaps, but these are all legitimate issues under the language of the statute. And so what I'm hoping is that a basket of these issues will be incorporated so that we can then say, people like me can then go to the council and say, well, you know, this is part of your comp plan review and you guys really need to focus on that. So that's my goal in coming here to the planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Kurt, I think, you prepared, an outline to start from. Probably all have some comments related to that, but why don't you give us, a overview of your program that you're suggesting here?
First, I'd like to introduce Danielle, who's back in the back. She's going to be helping us. She's our public information officer. She's going to be helping us get the word out. I don't know if you wanted to say anything or put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I talked with Kurt the other day. We're gonna try to, I think public feedback is probably the most important thing. So just trying to increase that in different ways. I kind of created a list and I know we can kind of go more in depth with that, but yeah, just trying to get more public feedback.
What's your last name?
Logan, Logan.
You're a public information officer
Yeah.
of the city.
Yeah, sorry.
I think that's good. I'm glad we have brought somebody on to help because it's gonna be really important. The amount of meetings we're gonna have and the participation is pretty critical. We don't wanna get to a point where we're starting to make decisions that we haven't had all the comments incorporated. And then we have to backtrack. So thank you. Appreciate it.
I think some of that feedback too, not only just in person, but trying to get more through like public surveys. And again, how we discussed, not just, sitting that out on the website, social media, but people posting QR codes at public parks and all different arrays of areas just to see if somebody passes by and they say, okay, this is good feedback, let me put in my word, so.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I know that's been, glad to have your help on this. I know it's been a constant concern, but we're not really very good at getting our word out. It's that's probably a good idea. Without there and but yeah, I put together a background of just a few paragraphs of, I guess, what we're going to do today, and then just a draft. Kind of just a tentative plan for the next 9 months. And the first things to say is that you have the printed out copies of the old comprehensive plan here that was approved in December 2021. So at this point, it's it's about 5 years old. Typically in South Carolina, we're supposed to be out new comp plan, has to be approved by the planning commission. Generally, it's every 5 years, and then I guess most people do a major update every 10 years. So in this case, we're just doing a kind of a revision of this comprehensive plan, kind of updating a lot of the maps, data. But we weren't planning on a full-fledged rewrite like we did with last year with those sections of the code. This is more like I think what you did with the last 2 chapters of the development code is some revision and updating this comprehensive plan. So that's kind of where you're at right now. I think we're handling the plan. There was money to have a consultant that was taken out of the budget by council. So that's going to be, and Danielle will be doing the plan ourselves. So you'll have to go with this concept, but hopefully that'll go well. But what you've got before you is the 9 to 12 month kind of plan. This meeting is just to kind of discuss, does this seem like a good plan? Do we need to make some revisions? When do we want to set up, you know, these, do you agree on these public meetings? You know, for us to start planning this and before we get too far out into the weeds with anything. So as you see before there, the first few months is kind of discovery. And we're proposing not to start until September. But that would be kind of reviewing the existing data, the chapters, interviewing stakeholders. That would be like chambers here, that would be major property owners, that would be developers, that would be like businesses, you know, like the school district, anyone that really has a real presence in the city we want to interview. As a stakeholder, and then one of the big things is to create a comprehensive plan website. So that's something we're going to have to work on because obviously don't have a budget for this, so we're going to have to work on kind of putting that website together. But pretty sure we can do that, and that would allow a lot of community engagement through the website. So that's kind of what would be a default for the project, right? So everything would go on the website. You have surveys, you have interaction on the website, and you know, you would post everything to the website. So I think that would be a good like repository for the public to go to, direct people to do surveys, to do like, you know, maybe when I do like a visual preference survey or something like that, you know, we can send them to the website, or you know, we have a draft chapter on, you know, it's at the website. Minutes to these meetings, all of that can be on the website. That's kind of our idea with that. And then, as I mentioned, you know, online surveys, since we don't have the budget to do a traditional survey, right? That's like statistically valid. That's so you have to mail things out. You have to get a certain number of people to respond, and you know, I think that's just beyond our budget right now. So we'll have to rely on online surveys and other engagement for that piece. But again, this is just a revision and update. It's not a full comprehensive. Then we would have a kickoff meeting that would be, you know, we're kind of thinking maybe October or early November. So first we do all that, we get some information. That information can kind of guide how we're going to, you know, do this kickoff meeting. I think I picked late October, early November, because it's before the holidays, starting to get cooler. People are here, they're working again, right? They're not burning up outside, or and they're also not, you know, it's not Thanksgiving or Christmas time, so it seems to be a good time to do this. And you know, we can do interactive online mapping. At this meeting, we can kind of do that part of the meeting. You can have, you know, links on the phone. We'd have like a brief presentation, you know, small group discussions where you can kind of break out, you know, maybe like future land use, you know, maybe some of these issues that are whatever issues you'd like, right? Then you know, we would obviously live stream that, and then you know, we would try to get the community's assessment on you know, really all of these issues, like, you know, maybe design, land use, transportation. That's a big one, right? So I think everybody's probably been through a charrette at this table at this point, and you know, I think we're just kind of planning on something similar to that. Let's use the website to really kind of engage while we're doing that meeting. So if that makes sense for the first few months, when the first meeting, does that sound like something that makes a lot of sense to everybody?
I think it makes sense. But maybe wait for it to get through the rest of it. So that I'm concerned about the time frame. I took a look at the stakeholders that are listed in the comprehensive plan for 2021. If I just take a look at the stakeholders, some people there, combining certain people, so you're not trying to set up meetings with individual, all the individual groups. I came up with at least 9 different groups. And when we did this the last time, we would have the groups come in and we would give them the opportunity to talk about the plan, the old plan, and where they were going, what they thought about it. And each one of those groups were a minimum of 1 to 1.5 hours. And there were a couple of them that we wound up having to do a second meeting set up for. I don't know that we're going to have to do that this time, but I think we need to put the groups together in a logical and so that we could get them to about 1.5 hours each, and then maybe we do two sets of groups, which would take us to our 3 hours, which is our typical work session. And so I think we need to take a little time to take a look at, you know, who are the groups that we're going to want to bring in, that would be the stakeholders, and kind of see what that looks like and how much time that's actually going to take. With our best efforts.
That's a good point, Mr. Tony. I think another question that I think you will have to come up with while we're thinking about that is, do you want to do a working comp plan subcommittee of this planning commission, or do you want to all be involved? You know, that's, you want to have just like 2 or 3 of you kind of work as like a kind of a working or steering committee that maybe works with staff on these interviews or other things. Or
I'm not sure I understand what you're.
do you want to create, you know, probably today would be a good time to do it. Do you want to create a steering committee of the planning commission to work on the comprehensive plan, separate from the full committee? Right. Like 2 or 3 of you.
What would that, what do you think that would entail? They would take on additional meetings?
I think they, instead of doing it in this setting, I think we would have whoever was on the steering committee would probably, you know, like stakeholders interviews, they would probably do those with staff, right? So it would be, could be a lot quicker, right? I think you'd appoint them as your representative to do that. And they, you know, would regularly update, I think, the rest of the commission on how the comp plan is going. So it's just a thought. It's often done in a lot of communities, but we don't have to do it.
I'm not really liking that idea. The reason being, we're not that huge of a committee here, where there's 7 people. And, you know, we all have our own voice in this. One thing, if we're gonna be doing interviews, they should be recorded, transcripts obtained, and summaries available. Just like, for example, in a legal case, if I'm interviewing a witness, you know, I summarize what that witness has to say, and I distribute it to other people on my team on the case. Letting a small group do all this and just periodically report back at meetings where we're not always all able to be at the meeting is, first of all, it's not a good way to share information, and second of all, it leaves a lot of people out of the process. And I think we've been entrusted to do this as a commission, not to pick 1 or 2 people to be the steering committee.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you, Kim. Any other thoughts, table? When we did the last time, we used the whole commission, so we only had 7 of us. Granted, some of the meetings everybody couldn't get to, so you had a few less people. Now, we didn't have much for staff at all the last time, so we had very little support. Now I think we have some good support, and I think that'll be very helpful. I think that my impression of what we are supposed to do and try and accomplish is to update everything in here so that we have a proper focus where we're going in the future. And then we all have to live by it because we have projects come to us every month related to, and they have to be related to the plan. So I think the stakeholders are important now. We spent a lot of time with them last time and tried to accommodate as much as we could. The one thing I would like to point everybody to is if you look in the back of your book, there are two things. One is the city budget. The other thing is every single chapter that's in the comp plan has a list of all of the issues that were supposed to be looked at and have something done with them in the last 5 years. Now, I know that as I looked at these, some of these have been accomplished, but there's a lot of them that have not. And maybe at this point, after 5 years, some of those don't have to be looked at, or they've already been done. But this would give us I think a help if we all looked at that and especially staff, because a lot of these staff have to let me know what we're trying to accomplish.
So is this updated for this?
No, this is, 2021, so I already know.
This is the way it was 5 years ago.
So there's no like, some of these columns kind of look like they're meant to be updated, but,
Yes,
okay, but is there somewhere else where this document is maintained that it does show what progress has been made since 2021?
I mean, and to piggyback on, we're all ahead with that, I would say that's probably this is part of staff plan. I mean, that would be, seems to be what the first thing you would do is review your implementation strategies and go through what's been achieved, what's partially achieved, and maybe it's not relevant anymore, so.
right. And I think, and the problem I always had with this is that, and what I had intended to do when I dropped off the board right after this was actually done, unfortunately. But the intent was that our plan would be coordinated with the city budget. So the things that we were looking to try and accomplish in here actually were funded through the city budget. But I don't think that coordination has ever happened. And it'd be really nice if it really did, because it doesn't make sense for us to write things for implementation that aren't going to be funded or done. And so I think it's important that we take a look at these. And I'm not saying that all of these things need to be implemented. I think we ought to look at them and sit down and decide, well, now this doesn't make sense. Yeah. But to try and clean up all this stuff. And then as we look at each of the sections, take a look at in each section and decide what things ought to be looked at. And I think if we could do that before we start the stakeholder meetings, it'd be helpful.
So we know where we are.
Because we could have a kind of a stepping off place to go with.
Apart from these checklists or priority investment items, which are make a lot of sense, to take a look at those first. And of course, they were adopted by the city council, so this is also presumably they knew it was adopting. How exactly do you view the 5-year update, or well, it's not even really the 5-year review under the statute as opposed to the 10-year update? which are distinctly different things, and we're only in the 5-year review stage? Or are you looking to advance that and do more of a 10-year update as opposed to a 5-year review?
Well, since we don't have a budget.
Yeah, and now, I'm not talking about budgetary, I'm talking about the entire comp plan. Forget the
Yeah, I
budget
think-
part of it.
I think we're,
The statute says it's a 5-year review with periodic reviews on a less frequent basis, on a more frequent basis if you prefer, but an update actually every 10 years. And in some ways, it seems like we're talking about an update in the first review. I have my views of what a review are, but I'm looking to hear what yours are.
well, I think it becomes difficult to review it because, you know, done like 8 of these because there's to be a regional planner. And every time you do this review, you have to update all the chapters because all the information is old, right? So, I mean, I think we were just going to update the chapters and maps and, you know, I don't think we were gonna do a full review, a full update.
So let me maybe restate it this way, so what you're really looking at is to review things for their relative present day accuracy as opposed to completely re-envision and sort of do what we did with the code, almost going back to the beginning.
That is my intent, and I think we
Yeah.
were gonna do a full-on update, you know, I think the city did that with the civic master plan, and that was pretty substantial, I think,
Right.
event, and I think this was a pretty substantial document because it basically put, you know, that vision into a workable form, right, with land use, and so.
So for example, just starting with vision, which is something you start with, we would not be writing a new vision. We would just be looking at the vision instead of a reimagining or a revisioning. We would be looking at just see if we was something that happened or occurred that we need to either insert or look at differently, right? And the same, the demographics are the easiest one to understand how a review would take place. The other plan elements, you know, are a little bit different. And I guess I would think that they would require less updating, you know, than obviously the demographics and this budgetary information for them. Is that probably accurate?
That is accurate. I mean, I think that's the direction I've received from both administration and council. You know, I don't think there's any intent to, you know, create a major update. I think that's intended, I think, by.
But if we did see some things, maybe like Paul was hinting at, that might be missing. Those are the kind of things, this would be a good time to insert those.
Sorry, this, I think Mr. Tony's been saying, you know, that's the whole point of this, is it's supposed to be a living document, you're supposed to be like looking at it all the time. I think we've gotten off track, we've been, not maybe off track, but you know, the code updates have taken a lot of time. And I think we need to kind of put this, you know, we need to start thinking of this, and now that we've done these code updates, you know, maybe this can be a little more smooth in the future, right? So, yes.
Well, usually since the code is advised by the comprehensive, usually these things go the other way around.
Usually they go the other way, but in this case, the code was waiting on updates
Right.
since 2017.
Right, I got it.
And
So what,
and, you know, I think it was in both, you know, both the civic master plan and this, that, you know, need to be updated. But that never happened, and so I think now that we finally updated the code,
I got it.
it's time to see if we can maybe meld the two together a little better. You know, I think there was an attempt to do that here with land use, and I'm not sure how successful it was, but let's go back to that, update that. And we've had a lot of development in the last 5 years too, that I think was approved when this was going on, but it just now got built, right? And so it's lagged 5 years behind. So now we're having the opposite, you know, the opposite happen where, you know, development is basically completely slowed down. last year. So it's I think a good time to look at this and to kind of just make some updates. See where we're at, see what needs to be worked on or changed or. You know,
But, and also because this isn't a complete redo, it's sort of, just seeing if our information is, see if, we're missing a few things, or if there have been something substantial that's changed. It may not require quite as much interrogation of the public as a completely brand new review would be. That would be my thinking on that.
I think there's 3 public facing meetings.
Well, I think the stakeholder, in my opinion, the stakeholder interviews are probably going to be the most significant things, because they're going to let us know where we missed the mark
Yeah,
here, or because it either wasn't covered or we put it in here, but nothing happened in the last 5 years. So I think we'll get a lot of input from stakeholder meetings from that standpoint. And I think I don't know, when I look at things, my philosophy, and my philosophy doesn't have to be the board's philosophy, obviously, because it's the board that's going to decide what direction we're going to go and what we're going to do. But prior to my taking on the 21 comprehensive plan, most of the influence from the city was we need to have the revenue income and we need to promote building. And when I did this, I tried to slow that down a little bit because it looked like we were going to have some things coming online that that we needed to watch out for trying to overbuild and do things that maybe economically we didn't need to do. And so I think when we take a look at this, we're kind of starting into a different cycle again. But then this board is going to have to make some decisions about, do we want to maintain having that general attitude of needing to have that income base for the city. I think that's one of the issues. I think another issue is, and it always has been, and it wasn't here, and then it will be in ours, and that is, what is city council willing to put into their budget? And what are they not willing to put into their budget? And that's a big deal, big issue. And I think we need to be a little bit confrontational with the city council about, you can say yes and approve things, and you can approve what our thought process is, but is it actually going to happen or get implemented? And that's, and the other thing I see in this, and Kurt was really good about including the county as part of this, but he's got this towards the end. And I would encourage us to maybe have a meeting with the county earlier on about the comprehensive plan and get kind of a little bit of their input as well as maybe the city. I know it's starting to load on more and more meetings, but I think it might be necessary if we're going to really address everything that we have in here. But the first thing that I think is important for all of us, including me, is to read through these things and see what we have in here and get your input from that reading as to, well, we've done this or we didn't do that. I was a big proponent of transportation, public transportation. County wound up doing a study on it. The study was done, but there's no funding to implement it. I just started calling the new director from Breeze. Talk to him about his attitude, because they're a big proponent or component of public transportation and where we're going to go with it or not with it. So I'm trying to start that conversation with him again to see if if there's something we might be able to do, because everything was done and approved by everybody, but it now is sitting on a shelf. I think it's an important component of this, but y'all may not, or city council may not, but I think we need to take a look at different things, not just that, but a lot of other things that are important to us as a board going for the next 5 years.
Is this something that we should be looking at more regularly, probably?
Yes.
Like instead of
Yes.
every 5 years, probably, like,
Yes.
should we be regularly?
If you'll read this, that's what I had indicated. That's what I had indicated that we should be doing. And it is a responsibility of the planning commission based on state regs. So, you know, it's up to us what we do with it and how we deal with it. And that's why I was going back to the back. If you go through this, take a look at it, you go to the back, the back tells you every single thing that the last time, the board and all of the other committees decided needed to be implemented for each section. And if we go through and we start to take a look at that, you get the gist of what this was saying, what we should do. And then, and like I said before, my question is, should it be there? Should we be doing that? Or should we do something different, or have we already done it?
Those questions could be raised. Let's say if the staff updates, gives us the summary of that implementation strategy, achieve, not achieve, halfway. Then for the things that weren't done are only halfway, planning commission, yes, no, not relevant anymore, that kind of thing. I think we're also gonna find some of those implementation strategies are really more like objectives. They're not like do that, I mean, for example, I'll just say one, it says preserve and protect the historic district. Well, that's not in a way really a strategy, that's more of an objective. So then a strategy might be update the survey, expand the survey, like new preservation, whatever it is, it's something real specific that you can.
Yeah, you're right, you're
So-
exactly right.
So that is cleaning up in that respect, I think would be helpful, but that would be done, could be done when we're just updating. That plan or whatever you want to call it. And I agree with what we mentioned, Bill said, seems like, focusing on the gaps in the plan. I think everybody's, you know, there wasn't a lot of time or staff, there are some gaps. There's no future land use map out for areas outside the city that we probably need to do that. Annexation plan or looking at that annexation, so there's certain things that will need to really be important. And I do think though, as part of that, that having sort of the background, updating the background information, so much has happened in the last 5 years. And I think having quantified, and you've already done a good job on these projects, whether they've been completed, but they're approved or they're vested, that kind of thing. Getting that all on paper, talking about the PUDs that are out there, where are they in the development agreement, are they expiring? They're still in place. I mean, just getting all that on paper is gonna be really important for us to understand, and also the public, when it's, you know, the public meetings, people are saying, oh, you know, what, it can be, sometimes it can be explained, or, well, we also have some new opportunities coming up, things have expired, so the background, a little narrative about what's happened and where we are today, I don't know, there's gonna be a cute little name for it, whatever. It's, I think it'd be really important for us and also the public, because gosh, so much has happened. Here's a land use anyway.
Yeah, land use and, well, and obviously the waterfront park.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You know, we do have a new city council now, than at the time this was put into effect. And, you know, like looking at Paul's handout, I think there's an appetite for redirection from the public and a practical need for that, because of all that has happened. So, even if we're not gonna do full update, as like on the 10-year program, seems to me that we do have an opportunity here to redirect focus, without completely redoing the plan, and that might be the approach that we want to do. And just a suggestion as far as using our time well, since we're not getting a whole lot of projects coming before us because of the slowdown in development and various other reasons. We might want to use our regular meetings as an opportunity for public comment and really expand it beyond what we normally have done. You know, ask people to have prepared remarks, you know, give them 10 minutes to talk, that kind of thing. And one thing we could do would be to, you know, there's all these different sections in this comprehensive plan. Maybe we have, you know, the November meeting, let's talk about overall vision. December, let's talk about economic development, you know, just use these chapter headings to kind of guide us for soliciting public comment and focusing on, you know, where people are at, what people want, what the city needs.
Question?
Yes.
Kurt, nice job on the outline. Question, so is there a hard date? Are we doing a hard date on a 5-year? 5-year review plan, is that just started within 5 years and, you know? something
Even
says-
if, as long as, even if we're late, there's no real. There's no penalty, as long as, you know.
The 10-year has dates that are pretty solid, so.
But even then, you.
There's no legal consequences.
Well, we asked for forgiveness a couple of times last year and extended it out a few months doing that. But yeah, I had that conversation with her too. And I guess we're not hardlined on dates. And I'd really like to see us kind of get through this. I think there's a lot to do. I think there's a lot of information in here, but there's a lot of new information that we need to put to it. But I think one of the big things I'd like to see is there's a lot of updating that staff needs to do for us. And maybe if you all could tell us where you cannot update certain things in here, where we need to go to do that, and if we need to try and get some additional funding to accomplish it.
Would it be, maybe I can summarize everything we've discussed so far for the first few months, it seems to be critical, right? And Nick's gonna take some notes and put up on the screen, does that make sense for everybody? Just hearing everybody, so first. Sounds like everybody agrees that there's not gonna be any, it's gonna be the whole commission. I don't know if we'll have such a spread, but you know, you just finish the code too, so. Maybe try that more than, just be like a pack of cookies. But anyway, so that was resolved number one. Number two, if you already put in the. Oh, it's not nice, right? I'm sorry. Please type in and we'll try to put up on the screen here. The stakeholder list seemed to be important to everybody. That's one of the first things that came up. So it sounds like in the next few weeks, we need to come up, you know, use the old stakeholder list, send it to everybody. Maybe there's some additions, some subtractions. I think when we send to everybody, you can you know someone you think in your organization that should be added. You might make some recommendations on how we can start scheduling that. Does that sound like a good idea? Next. That sounds like a good plan, everybody.
They probably need like a month heads up so they could.
Probably, that's why we're, you know, this is early August, so, you know, we'll try to do this in September and October.
And in contacting the stakeholders, I think it'd be very important to email them and follow up with a call. And make sure they know they're invited, so we don't run into the problem we had with certain organizations with plan comments that they, you know, they didn't come to any of the meetings and then they get presented with it and then they want a delay. So, you know, to emphasize that the time is now if you want to have input into this process.
Okay, so I think we need to send, well, I think we have it in here, but we can send this out today or tomorrow, if anybody has some additional suggestions, but while we're doing this, we start scheduling it, do we want to come up with a time for us to schedule it for together? They're like Friday, a Thursday, a Wednesday, in the next few weeks, if there's, we'll get 9, 4, probably 10 or 11 at most. How many, is there a day that we should block out that you all can make it? Do these interviews starting in September or October, stakeholder interview?
Well, I don't know that we can do them all in one day. I mean,
Oh, no, I know not one day, but just some days. Can you all think about that?
So let me just stop there. I'm trying to- So when you call it a stakeholder interview, I think of an interview as having a bunch of questions that we've got to ask. Aren't we really, again, this is not the update. This is just a review of what we have. Isn't it more just an opportunity to give people an opportunity to say something? And if they don't have anything to say, personally, it's fine by me. I have a feeling that there are people on this table that got something to say, and if we just kind of force people to answer questions, there wasn't a lot of participation when we look back on it in our development code. We had very few people showing up on very many occasions. We had the tree guy that worked with us, in a lot of meetings. Paul was here a lot, and 2 or 3 other people, Graham Trask at the very end. But there really wasn't all that much interest, and yet it still took us 2 full years to go through the project. I've been down this road a lot with a lot of comprehensive plans, and my advice has always been, don't cut off and you don't bite off more than you can chew. And the committee's always done that. And what started out as a year project became a multi-year project, and everybody at the end was going, this just got out of control. And that would be my watchword here again, is don't let it get out of control, and give people an opportunity to be heard. And if they come forward like Paul has, because they've been itching to say something, then that's important and that's good. But so that goes back to these stakeholder interviews. We want to give them an opportunity, don't we? But we don't necessarily have to have them all show up, do we?
I don't think we do, and I think you do have to just, I would completely agree with you, just ask them like 2 basic questions, is there anything? How do you feel the direction of growth? This is just the basics,
Yeah.
If you'd like to, discuss your views on growth in the last 5 years, or just anything else that you'd like to add about development and setting development view for this opportunity for you.
Yeah, and if they
That's
want
basically
to
it.
go on and on, that's good, and we'll be happy to hear it. But if it's not, we're pretty happy with things are. Go to the next one, right?
what if we do something like combine the stakeholder and public comment meeting? Have a topic. Have the meeting, certain planning committee meeting of a certain month is going to be focused on natural resources. And we invite the stakeholders, that staff can do, call them and email them, and also the public, and say, we are talking about natural resources. This is your opportunity to come. Please be prepared, and we want to hear what you have to say. I don't know that we need to separate the stakeholders from the public. Because there's,
Well, I don't think we can. The public is always invited to each of the stakeholders.
right, but I mean, why can't they all talk at the same time?
Yeah, I sort of see that too. Yeah.
Just that, I think stakeholders obviously have jobs and lives, and I think you're giving them respect.
Like have the same.
Well, you have the chamber here today, but have a lot of other events to go to, so I don't know that they can make, every meeting.
Right.
I need to,
That's why
just
we-
giving them the graciousness of, like setting up times so they can just have convenient time just to speak on.
You're saying that were they would come and speak on any of the topics that
Any of the
involved in the
topics,
comprehensive
yeah.
plan on one occasion rather than break it into, the 7 different plan elements and
That's
have,
right. I
yeah.
think so. I think because we're just doing this update, I think to your point, we need to keep this more constrained and
That's a good point. That's a good
More focus.
very focused.
But I think when you're asking questions, when you send something out to invite somebody to come, I think what you do is basically say, well, we're in a review process, 5-year review process. The comprehensive plan, please take a look at the comprehensive plan. It's online. And if you have any comments about a redirection or any issues, please come and attend our meeting.
Yeah, I think that's sort of good, is you'd like them to take a look at the plan in advance, so they know what we're here talking about,
Gives them a base,
Yeah.
gives them a base, just like us.
you know.
Yeah,
And let them define the issues they wanna address.
yeah, I think that's fine.
And maybe if some of them wanna have a special meeting, let's put the onus on them to request it.
Okay.
You know,
We'll find out when.
and if not all of them can come to a stakeholder meeting, I really think we need to use our tools. You know, any Zoom call, any Microsoft Teams meeting can be transcribed. And that can be shared with everybody. So,
Okay, so does this sound like a goal to start these interviews here in this week, send out the invitation?
So the current comprehensive plan on page 1-3, there's a lot of stakeholders. When we talk about talking to all of these groups,
Maybe we should.
There is a page that's missing out of here. And it's the actual, it thanks certain people in different organizations. And I believe it goes to the stakeholders that we used last time, identifies. So it kind of pins it down.
Yeah, there's.
No, that's more general.
okay,
Do we need all, maybe that's what
that's
we,
what Clint.
that's the next thing we can look at, do we need all of these stakeholders?
Yeah, that's what I was combining.
even if we combine them, this is,
I think it's gonna be hard to get like all the neighborhood association.
Yeah,
it's pretty disparate.
yeah,
Like,
All of
some
them.
department-
that's the general public, neighborhood organization, stuff like that. That's just general public being invited.
So are all these people talk to the last, when this plan was put together?
No, like I said, there's another page that you do not have that is always missing because it was on the back of the original. I think it was on the back of the original cover and it never gets printed. So I may be wrong, but I think that is a list of more specifically groups that we did actually talk to.
So this isn't really correct, not all of these state.
More general.
So
We have specific names for those.
yeah, so is this incorrect? There's a huge list of stakeholders here. Is it incorrect that not all of these groups will engage when this plan is put together?
No, I don't think we met with some of these,
Okay,
not directly. Maybe
okay.
there may have been
It was
comments.
just kind of scary. So if you had to guess, was it like half this number?
Beaufort Memorial Hospital.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those are
these are,
general though, yeah.
Beaufort Memorial Hospital is
They probably got a notice, and whether they said anything, you know, they were still a stakeholder, they was told, you know.
So how are we gonna, assuming that this is a good list of people who might be stakeholders, how are we gonna decide? Are we gonna use, I guess what I'm asking in a very convoluted way, who are the stakeholders and
Right.
where's the list?
Right. I'd like staff to kind of
List
look at
it.
that as a suggestion.
It is.
Here's a good list, I think this is a good list, so is
Am
there
I making
someone,
sense?
anyone thinks should be added or subtracted from this list? I mean, I think you're getting all of the neighborhood associations or residents from apartment complexes a little ambitious, but
well, they all have chairpersons that can be identified and emailed. In this case of the neighborhood association. Yeah,
Neighborhood associations, yeah, the city has a list, because the city has periodic meetings with neighborhood associations, that's
Right.
easy. You know, you're not gonna get in touch with every apartment association, apartment community. But they're still a stakeholder just by virtue of the public notice. You know, everybody's a stakeholder, you know.
So looking at this list, can somebody come up with a smaller list of? Sure.
Actually, it'll be a bigger list with more individual names, but it's not gonna be. It's not gonna be overwhelming. There are gonna be neighborhoods that don't participate. There are gonna be organizations that may choose not to, you know.
Well,
But
like,
you've got a list of everybody that requires notice, you know, and something like this, or from last time, I'm sure. And city government does for its newsletter and all that kind of stuff that, I think we just leave it to staff to come up with an appropriate.
Well, and I think we should use social media too. I mean, there are some groups that didn't even exist back then. I'm thinking of the Freedmen's Art District, for example, didn't even
Right.
exist back then. So if we make it, known across social media that this is happening, like on Facebook or, X, whatever staff thinks is the best. I mean, we've got a bunch of older residents here that probably all still use Facebook. That's probably the best one. So, hey, I'm right there. I'm right there.
like I said, I started to combine these like groups together as a single entity. And I came up with 9 different groups. And I had to add things like the Gullah Geechee, which is not on here. I had to add that to the Black Chamber of Commerce. Does that
makes some
still
sense.
exist?
Does
Did they
everybody
change
agree with everyone on this list and we can try to combine some of the meetings?
To decide what we're gonna ask them, I just don't wanna come on in and talk about, I don't know, it just seems like.
I agree. I think we need to
Structure.
say what topic we're talking about and not just have random people talking about every possible thing in the code all at once. I don't think that's useful.
So that's a slightly different topic, but before we get to that, can we finish up? Who's gonna come up with the list of stakeholders, or at least the initial recommendation?
You've got a list here.
Thanks, staff.
Oh, are you okay with the list? And we have.
I don't have any objections to
Would
that.
anybody like to add other people? Well.
Yes.
I'm looking at it.
So Tommy mentioned the Gullah Geechee community.
Yeah. Also, we don't have anybody here from transportation.
Okay, we can get. We can get that.
So we have public transportation and regular transportation.
Freedmen's Arts District.
Low cog, county, Port Royal.
And I think these are all stakeholders, but I think you can combine a bunch of the stakeholders into one group.
Yeah.
And that's how I came up with 9 different groups.
I mean, for purposes of a meeting,
Yeah. Yeah. They all have the same,
I just can't, yeah, I mean, I
I don't want to do all these individually. That'd be crazy.
no, I definitely don't.
Alright, so
I
we'll
just-
combine them
I just
together.
don't envision that many different meetings. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that.
I was thinking maybe for what Kimberly was, maybe what you were saying, that a meeting had spoken, this meeting, we're gonna talk about economic development. And I don't know, natural resources, and then the meeting starts out with, here's the well, they should have read what's in here, and then staff presents an update. This is what happened in the last 5 years with economic development, the Economic Development Corporation did X, Y, Z, we've got new employees, new business, we lost, whatever it is, that little update. So we're all on the same page. Then you could go through what we said we were gonna do, just a quick run through. We said we're gonna do these 10 things, we did 3, we partially did 2.
Well, that takes a lot, we're not gonna be doing it by next month or the month after, that requires a lot more from our staff. I think they were probably thinking, and I would be thinking, is you're just saying, listen, we're gonna update the comprehensive plan. If you have an interest in it, go online and take a look at it and give us your comments. On any aspect of it that's of interest to you, and I don't know, why do we have to be more specific about that
Because we need
with them
direction.
than that?
Well,
Because
right.
we've got, we're gonna get plenty of direction from people who, who are always on the edge of their seat wanting to say something. Plus, there's the group of us that have, it just seems like we're casting a lot of lines looking for something out there, and I'm not sure exactly why, other
Yeah,
than
that's
the
a
broad notice
maybe
that we send out.
I think that's a lot, so that's, you know, I think just let's keep this very general and we'll bring up issues that they're having. I'm sure the chamber is gonna bring up issues with the community that they have if they have the opportunity to speak on it, right?
Well, I think at the very least, we need to at least look through that action plan, and get that updated, because the change, somebody could bring up, well, what we really need to do is update the cultural resources inventory or whatever, update the preservation plan. Well, we said we were gonna, we already did it, we said we were gonna do it, but we didn't have enough money or something, so just.
But we don't have to have an answer when they bring their input. We don't have to have any answers at that point.
No, but we should maybe know, again, where we are. We said we we're gonna do all these things. We only did a handful, or we did all of them, or I just think that.
I just think that,
All I
it
can-
delays your gathering. of
All I can
information.
tell you is that the last time we had a huge public uprise because the plan was not being looked at and they were not getting input into the plan. And it went through city council and we had to completely refigure out how we're gonna do this and to get through this and give the important stake or the most prominent, not important, most prominent stakeholders in to have a discussion. And some of these stakeholders are gonna take every bit of an hour and a half talking about where things are and where things going. I'm hoping that we captured some of that in this from the last time. However, there, you know, there's new people always, and they all need to look at it. And I think you repeated kind of what I was suggesting. And that is, if we have 9 different groups, the way I looked at it, we have stakeholders grouped into 9 different groups. And if you set up meetings, so you allow an hour and a half for each stakeholder group, and you have 2 of those, so you have one group come in and then another group come in. Then you would, you know, have it narrowed down a little bit more to about 4 sessions that 4 or 5 sessions that you would be doing. And I'm not sure if you can get away without doing that. I don't know that we can do that.
So you're sort of saying is don't have a focus on the topic, but have a focus on the groups. So the chamber and the builders, for example, just an idea, their day is today for, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Talk about any part of the comprehensive plan that you think, you know, is of interest to you.
Well, but mostly.
And individuals of us can ask them questions if we want, but you know, we just let them kind of talk. And I don't know that, I'm just looking not to put too much burden on Kurt and his place to be prepared to give a presentation at these things with updates, because I mean, we're gonna have a full public hearings on everything at the very end. Once we get the information and then we put our redraft on everything and we send it out, everybody's gonna get an opportunity to say, you know, there's things that are missing, there's things that you got wrong, there's things that you never answered, you know, that's the second round, right?
Yeah, I think that's, you know, we were gonna put this at the front. So, you know, maybe there are comments guided where you put some emphasis on this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think what you're suggesting is that they become full partners, or they become almost partners in this plan. That's I think maybe the later update, because you know, I think we're gonna kind of keep the structure of it. I mean, it's a good idea, it's just gonna be very time consuming, because no one, to be honest, no one's looked at this priority investment, no one has gone through this since it got updated last time. So, and that's the next thing we need to talk about is, you know, that's the next big item, you know, from your discussion is looking back at that and
But
providing an update.
I think, Bill, the way you described it is different than the way I'm thinking of it.
Okay.
So when you invite the stakeholders, you invite the groups, so you have the Historic Beaufort Foundation, Beaufort Historical Society, and whoever else is in that, that's a stakeholder group.
Right.
You invite them to come in and talk about this after they've read that. They're gonna read their sections of it.
Right.
We're not inviting them to just take this whole thing and read it.
No,
But each one of the stakeholder groups is focused on
what's
the
of interest to
areas.
them, that's right.
that.
But it might cross, it
Well, it may.
might cross subject
sure.
matter.
Yeah.
That's why I think subject matter is the way to organize it. Because like Black Chamber of Commerce, for example, they're gonna be interested in a lot of different areas, and so is the regular Chamber of Commerce. So if we use a topic-oriented approach, which is the way the thing is organized, by the way, and if we're gonna be updating it, we have to take a topic-oriented approach. I think that's how we organize our meetings, and it's gonna be a lot easier on staff to gather data that way. Because people are gonna be talking about, a discrete topic on that day, hopefully. I mean, we can never prevent the outlying comments, but,
Well, you make a good point. Kurt's only point was that it requires somebody maybe to come back for multiple meetings as opposed to just.
Well, if they care about it, they can come.
Yeah,
back.
but it certainly would be easier from our standpoint and staff standpoint, because you're only focusing on something presumably narrow at that meeting. I get what you're saying, it's gonna be hard to keep people to that.
It will, but we can at least try. And, if one of these groups, it's a burden to go to a lot of meetings, send a representative. I mean, these are groups, these stakeholders, they're not individuals.
Well, can we maybe come up with like, I'm listening to everybody, can compromise here is, I think it's a good idea to. If some of these groups have shared interests, shared, specialties, and so I think we'll offer them a general, just how do you think the city's doing, and depending on what it is, as you're stating, obviously, I think it's just natural that, like Chamber of Commerce is gonna be more interested in economic development, right? And maybe you have a question related to that, but I think that's just gonna come out, I don't think we need to add all of this extra
I don't see.
detail to this. I think we just need to keep it general. And the Water and Sewer Authority is gonna be interested in infrastructure. So I don't know that that's just what's gonna come out of, it's gonna be their comments. It's just gonna be natural. Does that make sense? So.
Okay, I think the information we want from the stakeholders and from the public is simple. First of all, have you read the comprehensive plan? Hopefully they will have.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think if we're on the right track right now with this comprehensive plan? What changes do you think need to be made? And what are the priority items? I mean, I think those are the questions
Yeah,
to everybody.
that's fine. And I think it just if we interview all these people, they're going to naturally, the coastal conservation lead is going to talk about resiliency and environment. Transportation is going to talk about transportation, right? Those are going to be their comments. So I think it handles its, I don't think we need to make this so complicated. I think let's just do the interviews and it'll come out.
And we're gonna go through it chapter by chapter anyway, right? So if we do.
Yeah, we will.
If we do the overall generalized and then go through it chapter by chapter, and then they can come in if they want to on each chapter. Is that how we're gonna go about it?
I don't know that we're gonna go chapter by chapter. We were definitely gonna have the chapters ready for you to, but again, it's an update. It's not, we're not rewriting that, so.
If we go with something, but similar to what Kim is talking about. I don't like just taking a chapter and saying, okay, we're gonna talk about, community facilities. Anybody wants to come and talk about community facilities, we're gonna talk about it. And then we get stakeholders, we don't get stakeholders. I'm afraid of doing that. We have some, primary stakeholders that we need to make sure we're. I think if we focus it more on stakeholders and public at the same time, we can invite the stakeholders for certain. Let's go back to the Historic Beaufort Foundation and the Historical Society and whatever else is historical. Those are stakeholders. We invite those stakeholders and say our focus is going to be on, and you can tell them what chapters, we want that we're going to focus on. And it's open to the general public at the same time. But then at least we're focusing on stakeholders, giving them the opportunity so that we don't so that we get their input, which is the most important thing for us.
Well, I think what we need to do somehow, however we're gonna organize it, we need to lay out a map of when we're gonna be talking about what.
Yeah.
And then, as far as the stakeholders, my opinion, I don't think we should group the stakeholders. We need a stakeholders list. We send it to everybody on the list. And if they have a topic, you know, we invite the stakeholders to all of the topics. And some of them are gonna be interested and some of them are not. I mean, we're not gonna decide which are the best stakeholders to talk about that. That's a decision that the stakeholders make. Just like the general public makes a decision whether they want to comment on any particular aspect of this.
Again, we're just, we're just trying to update, and I think. Just to me, is doing this, that sounds like we're rewriting, we're creating our own new plan, and that's how you would do that. But I don't think that's what we're doing, we're just trying to say, hey, how are things going? And what are things that we should be looking at as we get into these chapters? We're just trying to put a new gloss or sheen on them, and we're not trying to redo the whole thing.
No, we're not trying to ask you to do anything, no.
Yeah, and we're not trying to get them involved in the whole thing. If they want to be, then they will be, and we'd like them to be involved, but this is not it's not like the code rewriter. This is more of a.
So Kurt, in your mind, how would, if we start having stakeholder meetings in, late September, early October, in your mind, as you look at this process, how would that meeting work? How would it start? Who would, what would happen?
Well, I think it would just be, just be an informal meeting with each agency and just stay out. And then, how do you think it's gone? So you Buford, and then if you'd like to ask other questions, and they can ask questions, I think. It's
So would we,
very general,
would
and then we take notes of all that, and
would this be thrown open to the public, or would we, had you envisioned that we would have specific meetings directed to different parts of this plan? Had you thought about that?
I had not thought about that. I think,
Okay, and
I was
I don't have an
thinking,
opinion
I was
on it
thinking
yet.
that we would just take notes of the meetings and, we would just keep, however many we do, 10, 11, 12, and then everybody sees them before we really get into the big decisions we need to make on the code. If we're gonna change the direction, we're gonna, something we need to focus more on. Maybe
I
they
think
say
that's-
housing.
I think that's.
Housing is a major concern. We need to.
You gotta be a little like about it. I mean, if somebody's comment. Isn't taken into account. When we start seeing a draft of the thing, they can say you ignored what I had to say,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's up to us to kind of. Decipher this stuff and decide whether it's, hits us as important or is just.
No, that is true. So would every one of these meetings be a topic, from a topic perspective, would every one of these meetings be a complete blank slate? Come one, come all, come talk to us about whatever you want to talk about, or would we ask people, would we set aside certain times to do certain topics? Has anybody thought about
Well,
that?
I think Kim was thinking about she seems to be thinking the meeting should be directed on topic basis. And Mike, if I'm getting it, is more like directed on who the stakeholders are.
But that's.
We'll have a number of
That
these.
is
Yeah,
topic.
That is.
Well,
topic.
they're somewhat topic, but it allows somebody if they're there in a neighborhood context, because we're inviting all the neighborhood groups on this particular meeting, they can talk about any element of the comprehensive plan. Now, they might be focused on neighborhood revitalization,
Mhm.
and that's it.
Mhm.
But my guess is that even the historic people, they're gonna, or the conservation people are gonna, they're not gonna be just talking about,
They're gonna be
the resources, they're gonna be talking about transportation, they're gonna be
Yeah.
interested in a number of these subjects.
Everybody may be talking about transportation.
That's probably true.
And so at each one of these meetings, in addition to the topic focus, we would entertain, if there's somebody from the public who just wanted to stand up and talk, we'd listen to
I think you have.
them. No, I'm just.
I don't want.
Only to a certain extent. If it starts going down a rabbit hole, we have to stop it, because then we're not gonna get any information.
That's true.
Yes.
We've got to be somewhat focused on it.
That's a challenge of having the whole planning.
But I don't think-
Used to just it being a subcommittee, so not to be noticed, right?
I don't think you have to have, but all I'm saying to that, Clint, is I don't think you're gonna test somebody's credentials and say, well, you know, you're not with this neighborhood association, so you gotta wait 2 weeks to
I
come here.
don't think anybody
Yeah.
suggests that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get, in my mind, an idea of, how this is going to work, because I think for each one of these interactions, for sure, there's gonna be people from the public who are gonna say what I hear sometimes. I think we just got too many apartment complexes in Beaufort, where we ought to just stop them and not have any more. And by the way, car washes and fast food places are close seconds and thirds. And that's what you ought to do, and that's my input for the.
Well, that, and.
Which is fine.
Pardon me?
That's fine.
So,
That's fine. We've heard that one, so.
so if I'm just trying to pull it all in, obviously I have my opinion on this, but, I mean, I think we're gonna invite them. You all want to be involved, so that's a public hearing. I think we're gonna rely on, you to be, or I can, if we have citizens, that needs to be at the end, or that they really should be talking. These meetings.
What?
And,
Say that again, I didn't hear you.
well, these are stakeholder interviews. If you want to, if they want to have public comment, it really should be at the end of all the interviews, or we'll never get through interviews. That's absurd. I've never heard of a whole committee. I've never experienced that before, but if that's what we want to do, we have to notice it. And so then you need to do a public comment section, the beginning or the end, but it probably shouldn't be during an interview with an entity. because
It's
that's-
easy enough, though, just at the very end, after you've invited the
Yeah,
historic, this, group, the historic, that group, and then you say, is there anybody else that wants to comment? And there'll be a few of those.
And then
That's
it's just
easy
gonna be
enough.
an informal kind of interview.
And, my experience, I always cut people off if they're
I'll
going
take
crazy.
notes, I'll take notes and then compile them all and then, then we can,
So in this regard, would there be at least one of these sections that would not be topic delineated where public could just show up?
well, that's what the point of the 3 public meeting is for.
Also, the 3 public.
I mean,
meetings are-
typically, again, the stakeholder interview is not done publicly.
Yeah, so, okay.
It's just to get information to guide you to get on it.
Now some things are falling into place from a logic perspective. I understand now. The significance of the decision to involve the entire planning commission in every one of these meetings. Number one, it'll be very public, and number 2. Assuming we ask for public comment at the end of the meeting, which is probably makes sense. You're gonna have to listen to a lot of other comments that are gonna be of the type that I just mentioned with every meeting, and that's fine, but it also sounds like, Kurt, you would envision that there would be separate meetings that were not shareholder focused, that would be just open to the general public.
Yeah, I have
one
3 of them in here, like charrettes, if you will, or just.
What's a
also
charrette?
an open house.
Okay.
It's just.
I know a lot of big words.
Used in any other context, like an open house. You're thinking of 3 open houses with like,
So what about this for the first public meeting? The first chapter of this thing is called vision. And there's a list of the overarching goals and the review and updates, and we know that that hasn't been done. But that would be a good first meeting. Let's talk about the overall vision. Are we on the right path? And that would be good for public comment and shareholders to come to. And so that's our free-for-all meeting. That's the first meeting. After that, we shift to a more topic focused format.
Yeah, you're trying to get information, opinions, data to build the update, right? And so that's the goal of the stakeholder interview and the first open house. But you need to give them direction. It can't just be a free for all for the open house. So we have to, that's why we would do that at the end of the first few months. We get this data and then we kind of have a feeling, well, transportation seems like it's pretty much should, if we're gonna do something with this expanded, we need to focus on that, or maybe design needs to be focused, so we need to do more.
So we're not design today, the open house meetings, as we get through these initial interviews, we'll have a better sense of where you're going with those.
Yeah, and I think we'll, you know, when you talked about next priority investment. Is we need to have a meeting, we need to, provide you some analysis on where this is and have a meeting with all of you, we need to. Kind of give an update, that's. We was talking about with data, like, where does this stand, so we need to do all those things first. And then we need to talk about goals and objectives, what is your vision, right, or vision you want.
A lot of this checklist, you're gonna have to do just internally with staff and with the
Yeah,
city manager and the city finance director. Just, you don't have that on the tip of your tongue. And you're
I
just
don't.
talking, right?
but we need to do that in the first month,
You can do that and report back to us. don't
Yeah,
have
we
to
need
be-
to have a meeting.
So
and
we're just reviewing after you've done it.
How about, who has that on the tip of their tongue? Would it be the city manager?
I think a
Who
little-
would be most likely to have that?
What are?
Or
capital
updating the,
improvements?
no.
I don't even know if they have a capital improvements, anything, but.
Updating this blue list that's at the back of the book. Who would be the
Yeah,
person?
that's a capital improvements plan, so yeah, I would have to get with other people in the city and want to go through that, and
This
that's.
is not a capital improvement, this is comprehensive plan
Oh,
implementation.
there's two sections, you go,
Oh, okay.
if you go back. If you go to the very, I don't know, it's somewhere else, sorry, another little pullout of like, it has $75,000 to fix the waterfront park. It's right before it, priority investment. It's basically the capital improvement plan, and I think at the time, I don't really know there was anybody at the city doing that.
That was the city that did that.
So we now have a capital improvements department, so they can kind of assist with that, but
That is the city's budget from that year.
Okay,
that year, so.
And I'll have to tell you, yeah, I'll tell you that I'd rather not start with city vision. I think city vision should come after we look at everything else and decide where we're going with it. I think city vision. And I'll tell you that right now, the city vision, that all the written part of that, I did. But everything under overarching goals came from the city manager at that time and the city. I had nothing to do with that.
well,
So I kind of leave,
why don't you think we would want to hear what stakeholders and the public would like to see the overarching goals be early on?
I think that's what Mr. Tony's saying is, let's do the stakeholder interviews, let's update the priority investment. Let's look at the capital improvement plan, get an update on that, and get all this communication. And then maybe have a meeting to talk about the vision or.
Well, didn't you want this nature updated versus the capital improvements updated?
Yeah.
Okay, so
well,
we're clear, we want the implementation matrix updated.
Yeah, the implementation and the capital, and I always call it capital improvement. Or it's called.
It's a
priority
city funded
investment,
project.
Something, those two things I think we need to get updated for you. We'll do the stakeholder interviews, and I think you'll have a lot more sense of where things are, right?
Yeah. I do want to get to the vision, but I think it's something that this board ought to kind of put together based on what's happened with all our stakeholders, interviews, public interviews, everything else, and where we're going to. I think that's kind of the board responsibility.
So let's, September, we'll do the stakeholder interviews and we'll update this. We'll plan on our work session and the planning commission meeting doing that. Does that make sense? So we'll have to set aside days for the stakeholder interviews. And then, the October work session, like this session, I think will be like a summary of those items, or even a planning commission meeting. And then you can kind of develop what questions, what things you want to go to the public to kind of create a vision.
What
Does that
about,
make sense?
Kurt, what do we have on our agenda for the August regular planning commission meeting?
You have the Novant Health.
That's the carryover that was tabled.
Are they gonna be coming?
Maybe a town home project. Yeah, they definitely want to come.
Okay, can we put on an agenda item some kind of introductory meeting to the comprehensive plan review process.
Sure.
And, get it out there that we would love to hear from stakeholders or a member of the general public at that time, as a, not 2 minutes, we really want to hear from people.
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
And quick question on the updating on the charts in the back. I don't mean to be cracking away here. Don't take it that way. Is it gonna take 60 days? Is it gonna take to September to get those updated, or can someone, I hate to say hit a button and print it off a computer, but I mean, a lot of these should be expenses and things that are already expended in a computer somewhere. Can we get those, at least get a status on what those are at the August meeting?
Didn't we just do an update on capital improvement projects for the city council? Isn't that where?
Yeah, they're doing a capital improvement plan, but there's a lot of other things here that we're like the strategic planning type of exercise here that. I think we can get this all in early September, kind of resolved here, so.
This is kind of the status, because obviously if something,
The next meeting,
that's easy, it's been canceled, and it's just kind of updates.
I think if it can be the next work session here for us in September, I think we can get them all answered.
And I gotta ask one other quick thing. I always don't want to hear this question, sorry, I apologize up front. Do we want to grade ourselves? What I mean by that is, we drew a line in the sand back in December of 2021, said, here's our 10-year plan. So now we're 5 years into it. How do we think we're doing? We got a C, we got a B, we got a D. And that's not on us as a team, that's on us as a city. And that might help us when we do our next plan, say, all right, we did so much on our last plan, we did okay, but we do okay, before how can we improve? He needs to answer, you don't want to, I know the look on the face. I
think that-
can see the consternation now.
I think that's gonna invite a lot of negativity and criticism to do that, and I don't know that we want that necessarily be the focus of this project.
But if we don't grade ourselves, then we're never gonna know how we're doing. We can basically throw anything on there and walk away, we're happy because we're not responsible.
Well, I think that perhaps people that might want to solicit feedback would be city council, who are the people that, would be being graded. As opposed to us soliciting the folks to come and grade city council at our planning commission meetings.
That'd be sort of grading, by the way, that's not open to the public, that would just be us looking at this and saying, how did
That
that
would
do?
just be us. I'm not gonna tell anyone, even though.
At our
understand.
meetings.
I mean, to that,
But I can grade you on your test.
On the internet right now.
I mean, to that point, haven't really talked about this website engagement portal and online survey. Is that something, I mean, that could be part of the public survey, I guess, like.
Yeah, that's gonna be. We don't have the money to like them now.
And I
I'm
think,
sorry, that happened.
you might,
No, we'll do it, it's just, I think we first have to understand what
Right.
questions we're gonna ask.
Yeah.
I would say, one thing that's come up with the strategic plan, and just after 20 years of doing this, is that you may consider, just kind of when you're going through these implementation plans, there's like 100 and something here. It's a lot, and that's probably why no one ever looked at them. So, I think with the strategic plan with the city, they've kind of learned to start cutting a lot of them, reducing them, because it's just, it's too much, right?
That's what I was wondering if we might want to involve the city manager, maybe invite him to come to a meeting.
Sure.
Because I would think he would probably be the one that has the most comprehensive knowledge of, whatever happened or what's going on with this implementation nature. So if we had questions, it would be handy to be able to ask.
That we would invite them to the next meeting that we're gonna be talking about this. Yeah, absolutely. And just so that you know where that long list comes from, you probably know this, but every one of these chapters, at the end of every chapter, it has implementation strategies, and that's where it's just a chart that comprehensively takes all those and puts them down.
Yeah, that's every comp plan. It's just this one has a lot. So it has a lot. It has like 15 or 19 or something for each one, and that's.
some of them are general, I mean, here's one, encourage enhanced bicycle and pedestrian paths and landscaping. I guess you could say, yeah, we did that, because it's like not,
At least talk about it.
so I don't know, some of these are a little not as easy as others, so maybe the grading,
Right.
I don't know, that might not be easy to do, or maybe it is, yep, we talked about historic preservation and I don't know.
I think
But
it's,
some are very specific, and I think maybe that's what we need is add specificity where possible.
or, you know, do we want this to continue to be a goal? I mean, you know, and
Exactly.
with Paul's presentation at the beginning, you know, maybe a refocus on some of these things would be a good idea in light of what has happened since 2021 and on a lot of different fronts.
Well, once when you have the information, you know, did the city actually do anything with this? You hear from the stakeholders, you know, and maybe you can start deciding, you know, which of these are just, you know, not really needed anymore, right?
I think again, some of them, you're gonna move from an action into an objective, encouraging pedestrian, or, you know, bicycle. Now, it can be real specific, build, you know, 2 miles of bike paths, repair 10 miles of sidewalks, that's me, an implementation strategy, you could grade yourself, no, we only build 5 miles. You know, plus, but anyway, so I just think that's gonna be part of the work, you might say, or.
Some of this stuff come from that, you heard 2030 exercise. You all remember that. So that's.
I think those overarching goals did maybe something.
Oh, from the city?
Yeah, or the city
It may have
strategic
been.
plan,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
But,
So, for example, I'm looking at M2 on the implementation matrix. The first goal down in the community facilities development, create a corporate landing plan by completing the second phase renovation at 500 Carteret Street, from which international companies can investigate opportunities in Newburgh, cross-listed with economic development.
Have the old mayor's name on it.
It doesn't, but it's maybe that's a typo. You know,
We're part of that Flon Bar initiative.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Not a bit of it is work at all.
And that's why that whole thing needs to be scrubbed, because
Exactly.
there's input from a lot of different sources there. A lot of things that have changed.
Talk about budgeting for having money to do other things. Well, you eliminate a few of these so-called strategic partners and you got an awful lot of money you can spend on more meaningful enterprises.
Okay, we don't have public comment.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
I think we should take a really good look at all the ones that have the multiple dollar signs on the projected cost. That one has $3 signs.
So I think we're coming up with a plan here, and remember, for the September meeting. And in the meantime, so first, I'll start getting some of these stakeholder interviews going. So would you like to start in September, or you want to start?
I think we have to start in September.
Start in September.
I just took a shot at looking at this and I extended it out about 3 months from what you had, just as a starting point. We all know that it grows after that.
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to keep it from growing too much. Okay, so that, if everybody, I think in the next few days could just send us by the end of the week, maybe like an email of what days are best for everybody, so we can start setting up these interviews. Be in the next month by the September meeting, which I think we've got to get a day on because Labor Day is on the first Monday. But we'll have answers to all of the capital improvement project and the implementations here. We'll try to update this for you. We can talk about that at that meeting. Start the stakeholder interviews. You know, we've already been kind of updating chapters.
Can you give us an idea on the population?
If you'd like to see population, we can give you that chapter. Sure.
That's important, I think, to the
Okay.
whole rest of the thing,
Sure.
actually.
Sure, and then, you know, we can talk about that and that can start setting the stage for this open house. What you're wanting to ask, what information you're gonna try to get from the public on that. And that can guide the rest of the plans. So does this make sense?
I just want to reemphasize exactly what Kurt was saying, and that is that our direction, what we want to do is update this whole thing and put any new strategies, incorporate those into this as new strategies. But but to everybody's point, you know, it needs to be an update, it's not a rewrite. Certain sections may need to be rewritten, the vision statement will be rewritten, all of that, a few other things, but.
Well, I mean, the plan was, according to this, that, two plan elements will be reviewed and updated biennially. That didn't happen. And matrix will be reviewed quarterly by the planning commission. That didn't happen. So,
Well, again, I think this is the opportunity to start, you know, we can set the stage, so we can start doing that. And in that time, you know, it's gonna get approved until 2022. So there was a lot of change in 2021, 2022. You had a different council, different administration, you had the MPC and the DRB, those are all gone. You know, we've changed the code, so there's been a, you know, your entire staff and everyone is gone. So, there really wasn't much continuity from 5 years ago, right? And so now you're creating a foundation, you know, I think to do a really good 10-year plan, you know, the next big plan, but to keep this updated moving forward. So I think that's the goal.
I think that's a really good point. And the other point to that is that this was written by the MPC, Metropolitan Planning Commission. So we had members from the county and members from the town when we went through all of this. Not that that may not make a whole lot of difference, but that's who the board was at that time.
Okay, well, it sounds like now the rest of this, if you just wanna think about it, it's good to think about it, but we don't spend a lot of time on it. But I think we got a pretty good basis, I think, for the first 2 months here, but, you know. Now, like, it might take a little longer, maybe an extra month for this, we'll see how it goes to the next session. But then, you know, you do the analysis, essentially, we do an online survey. You know, I think you wanted the population draft, so, you know, we can have all the chapter updates. Map updates for you, and then start to consider the goals and objectives and the vision of the plan as you discussed. So this would be after, you know, this. The online, you know, the survey, the open house, because then you start working on the vision plan. So does that sound good to everyone? We need to do a work session based on the vision you come up with and kind of engage the public on this vision, right? Trying to get them to refine it, to buy into it. Does that make sense to everybody?
I just think we really want to utilize our regular meeting time,
Sure.
because that is when people can come to, you know, they're not, mostly not working at night. So both the public and the stakeholders can come and, you know, we've been having a lot of short meetings, not that I don't like short meetings, but, you know, if there is time there to use. And it's also a bigger room if there is a lot of interest in something. It's an easier space to have that kind of thing.
So does that sound like a good plan for the middle? That's where all the work is really being done. And then, you know, then we come up with a draft plan and, you know, we basically kind of release the plan, get the comments on it, and then, you know, to you as well, and then do a final kind of draft. So the public notice period, and then it goes to the city council. So I was saying June. So it might be an extra month or two. We'll just see. Have to see.
Do we want to try to take these chapters in order? Maybe the order that they're already in?
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that
mean,
seems logical.
have you all met Maxwell? But we've already been working on the chapters, so a lot of them are already, we've already been updated. You know, this is not a really hard thing to update the chapters, right? Because there's not too much information that needs to get updated. So, I guess we could present that earlier, but.
So you have the updates already?
Not all of them, some of them.
Have you been going in order? Or what ones do you have?
We've been splitting them all up. not necessarily want to avoid it.
Well, maybe you could tell us what you've done already, and we could start with what you've already done. That might be I like Libby's approach that she suggested, where are we? What progress has been made or not made, and where do we want to go? I mean,
Well, we could, I just don't, that's why I was kind of put in the middle, because, updating like the information on it's easy to do, but, these first few months, you may decide, well, we need a whole different chapter on transportation, we need a lot more on apartments, whatever it is, right? So then we'll have to add that to that, so I think we might just be duplicating and adding more.
We don't need to go through multiple drafts. I mean, I think we get it from Burton and they're ready to release with us. I mean, we're sort of just in an information gathering stage and not get so far ahead of ourselves. Get the information, which is what we're doing. And I'll give you plenty of time to work on what you're working on with the information you're getting. And at some time we'll get a draft
Yeah, we'll give you
of
a
either one chapter at a time or all at once.
like around the holidays, and you got plenty of time, we got months to work on that. But let's try to get. Let's, get the vision and what the public wants and what you're all wanting to work on. And then we can finish those chapters. You guys have plenty of time to revise them.
But we're gonna use staff as much as we can. Maybe.
Well, you don't have anybody else to do, so.
Instead of maybe, writing everything for you. Cause we got good ones. The last time with the comprehensive plan, you didn't have the quality of people we had this time.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I just had one person.
So when did, I don't see on this list, the suggestion about inviting the city manager.
Yeah, we can do that. Let's add that, invite city manager and maybe capital improvement projects team to, the next meeting.
Going back to interview to me sounds like you're asking people questions. Is there gonna be a pre-prepared list of questions that we're gonna give the stakeholders? I just want to make sure it's meaningful for everybody and then it isn't just, we've got too many departments or, I don't know, that we're getting the information that is really useful to our purpose. So I think they're gonna be.
I mean, you got questions here that aren't bad, they're pretty general. So what do you like most about Beaufort, what do you like least? What would you think would make Beaufort a better place? What are the top 3 priorities? What is your concern with the future? What does your organization want conveyed in the conference plan? That's not bad.
I think we can try to tie it to the visions and the objectives that are stated in the plan, as opposed to really general, let's talk about Beaufort.
We like, trees with the natural environment, and cultural reason. I mean, those things are gonna come up. And I didn't think really we're gonna rewrite the vision statement. I mean, look at it, if it needs to be, that's right on, or have dairy, or something.
This is the time yet. So you start over on A.
Right, so,
I mean, surely you might want to tweak it a little bit, but you've got it there. So I mean,
anyway, are there gonna be are those the questions we're gonna ask people what Kurt just mentioned?
I'm still just trying to go with the more general, but I mean, I think again, if we invite them in an interview, you guys can ask them any questions you want, so I mean, I don't.
We can, or we don't have to, I don't.
Yes, present on these, and here's what we want to hear from you.
I mean, you could do that.
You
It's
got,
just
there's a 10-minute presentation, and then if we have follow-ups, we'll follow up.
Yeah, I just don't think it's that important that we ask them anything. If people want, this is our opportunity to say whatever it is on their minds. And if they choose not to express themselves, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that means we're doing something right, but there's gonna be people with strong opinions and they'll probably direct ourselves and our writing and revisions ultimately to what those of us at the table have independently, perceived through, our time here and as citizens, but then we'll be listening to the people that speak up the most, which is the way it should be, right? Rather than trying to pin everybody down. I mean, frankly, if there aren't a lot of people with a lot of strong opinions, that's fine by me.
But I'd like them to start from the context. I'd like them to start from the context of the 21 comprehensive plan.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
We're not trying to, and not asking them to reinvent
right.
anything. Just tell us what's right or wrong
Okay.
and the direction.
And if they don't choose to read, they want to say something that turns out everything they said is already there precisely, then that's fine, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, we kind of know already who's probably gonna show up with something to say, right?
I've never found that anyone in Beaufort has a, reluctance or shortage of opinions on anything. Comes through with strong opinions at that, so.
That's true.
If you give them the opportunity, they'll.
But but it's funny, as much as they do, certain people you hear over and over again with the same criticism, where it all comes down to it. And people like where they live, they have pretty strong opinions about the positivity of the place.
Well, I think doing or even reviewing a comprehensive plan is a pretty difficult task, especially for most of us who've never done one before, never been involved with one before. Our expectations today may change quite a bit after we have a few meetings, but I thank staff for putting together the outline that we've got. And I think we've done a pretty good job of getting that revised into something we can all at least start out living with. But it's just a comprehensive plan. It may want to change after the meeting.
But I will say this, since I've taken time to read this thing, I have a lot better appreciation for the work that you did, because I think it's pretty good stuff in here.
Well, there's some interesting things in there, but
I mean, there's some things that obviously we know need to be updated. It's things that each of us thought of, but I think you did a pretty darn good job. So we're really just starting, we're picking up where you left off, kind of.
One of the things that we'll get to is in the public transportation side, we did do that. The county had a whole study done for that public transportation. And I don't have a copy of that. If we could get a copy of that from the county, that would definitely be something we'd like to see, because we could just incorporate that as part of our transportation discussions in here as to where it is, and then we can make comments as to whether we think it needs to be implemented or not.
We were going to the same for the county's got a lot of recent studies on all the main corridors too. So we were going to, we've already asked them to come and talk to us about it, but they've done 21 and Robert Smalls, they've done a lot. They've done a lot of all the transportation. It's only like a year old, or it's actually 21 plan they're doing, finalizing in the next month.
So you're talking about bringing the pieces that affect us that are
Yeah,
within the city.
without us funding it. So all this planning is being done by the county and the transportation side. I think we can piggyback on that.
So,
How much does the county work with SCDOT on that? Pretty closely?
That's a good question for them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I know they do.
Well,
work.
Bowman, you're on that task force.
Well, my experience on that committee was that DOT is so focused on I-95 and primary interstate work that they're really not at all focused on, which was the reason that they wanted to implement the penny transportation tax, which is, as you know, coming up this fall. So
Because the state
it
is.
does not seem to be, the state is they have budgeted for certain resurfacing projects, which may or may not occur in Beaufort County. But the primary focus with DOT right now is on large scale interstate work and so forth. And so does not seem to be a tremendous amount of interaction between the county and the DOT presently.
And all the information in here on parks, pathways, boat docks are all from the county. So we should be able to just get an update the county on all those things, because I've worked with the county on getting all those, in this plan.
Right, I got a question for you. So you remind us that this last time was done by the Metropolitan Planning Commission,
Yes.
which had multiple, you know, the county had multiple municipalities. So,
It's the town.
oh, there wasn't Port Royal or anything like that?
It was Port Royal.
Town of Point Royal.
Okay, so Beaufort, Town of Port Royal and County.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in creating this commission, City of Beaufort made a decision to, let's have our own planning commission.
Correct.
Not that they're not partners of ours at certain things, but I'm wondering if we need to keep that in mind when we're looking at this, as far as focusing on just Beaufort as opposed to some of the more countywide or countywide issues.
Yeah, I don't know that this does get into any countywide issues. When I was saying the parks and the boat ramps and all those things, the pathways, those are just information that we had put into here. So we had a more comprehensive look at what was going on all over the county, not just in City of Beaufort. I don't think you'll find, I think it's fine to do exactly what you're saying. Focus on the fact that this was not done purely as city, but I don't think you're gonna find anything again here that would be different. That would have been done different.
My sense was that there are some places where there may be some reference to stuff that don't need to be in there any longer, but this was a city comprehensive plan, and so there, you can tell in reading it that there's really more about the city than about these other places.
So I'm just thinking of some of the objectives that Paul mentioned in his presentation at the outset. You know, focus on the core city functions, focus on, you know, the things differently as far as budgeting for police and all that kind of thing. I mean, that might be too much in the land of the 10-year revision than the current revision, but I don't know, just.
Well, it may or may not be. I think a lot of those points were very well made, and I want to look at them in more detail too. But I think we need to consider all these points and decide, you know, well, where we feel about going. A lot of them are really up to the city, but we can make recommendations about something like this.
Right.
Well, I wanted to introduce, we have an intern who's at the University of Oregon, and it's Tom Watson, that's why he came back here, if you're working came back, so it's been great so far, but it's a few weeks left, right?
Yeah, end of August, so one more month. But yeah, well, I've been here. When I first came, they were trying to find some stuff to do for me, so I had plenty of time to look through the comp plan. So I was able to go through and read all of it and see, you know, what would be the easiest to work on and what I could do while I was here to be a help. So I ended up categorizing all of them based on what feasibly I could do as something to be helpful and which ones would be harder. So while I've been here, I've had the time to work through updating the transportation, resiliency, and natural resources sections. Mostly because those ones have a lot of information online, especially resiliency, transportation, that you can find, making new graphics and stuff. So as of now, and I think Christopher's been working on the population one, we've got about 4 of them being updated with new numbers and such. So yeah, besides that, I don't have much to share, but
You've worked with our GIS
yeah,
technician.
beyond that, yeah, we've done some new maps and stuff. Not to diss anyone that worked on that one, some of the sections had more maps that, you know, we want to keep, and other ones looked a little outdated. So finding information and making those maps easier to read, more publicly accessible and stuff. And what else there? That's about it. So
That was a good time.
I am having a good time, yeah, and I've had to talk to a bunch of people to get all this information, so that's fun, but happy to share those.
That's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah, right.
So
I'll find work for you.
There's fun.
that's all I have, so. Yeah, oh, and we probably need to think about at the planning commission meeting when you want to have the next work session because of Labor Day. Because your regular meeting would be Labor Day. You want to do the Tuesday after that, although that's gonna be hard. Usually have a bunch of meetings in here, but want to do the following Monday or a different day. Just need to think about it for that, the planning commission meeting, so that.
For which one, not the 17?
No, not the planning, no, the next work session, which is always the
Oh.
first Monday of next month is Labor Day.
Okay.
So we need to figure out an alternative day.
Yeah, at the last meeting, we did talk about possibly having these work sessions on a day other than Monday. And you were going to get some information about whether that would even be possible.
The dates, what are the days we have in one? For September? Yeah.
No, like for like.
Forever.
Instead of first,
Forever.
Well, usually the first Tuesday is. Or Tuesday as a whole. Of the month, it seems that.
Yeah, we have our TRC and staff meeting. It's usually go long.
How,
So you have any up there?
It varies depending on ribbon cuttings and things like that. The town of Port Royal only meets on the first and second Wednesday, and that's not until 5 or 6. So the daytimes are open, as long as it fits within any other city meeting, it's fine.
Wednesday. It's available.
Yeah.
We have the HRB on second Wednesday. We can do Wednesday, I think.
that'd be like the first Wednesday. Of the month.
That's fine.
happens for Mondays?
All
Take the first Wednesday work. But excuse me, that's actually 7th, you say you can't do it on the 8th?
I just,
Is that the Tuesday?
Yeah.
After?
Seventh is the first Monday. It's Labor Day. Negative Labor Day is, when is Labor Day?
7th.
Labor Day.
Seven, okay.
I just, I mean, I set these things for a whole year, and I do scheduling around what's set, so just all of a sudden changing things. With established schedules, it's harder.
But the 8th is gonna be hard. There's,
You got other meetings or something?
well, there's other meetings. Wednesday would be free. But it's whether you wanna do that permanently, I think that's what.
That was the request that I made at the last meeting, because I just find Mondays very difficult to take a half a day off.
I can make Wednesdays work on a going forward basis.
Well, Friday.
Maybe Wednesday.
Nobody wants to do this on Friday afternoon.
Friday,
No.
That'd be our rare.
That comes a meeting if we all hit a bar, would that be a public meeting?
It's a public house.
Let's just reset the Monday, September 7th meeting,
What,
and then talk about all the rest of the meetings that are next. That are next, yeah.
So
Whatever.
about setting it on Wednesday the 9th.
well, and I'm asking just, because I was gonna be gone on Wednesday, because again,
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Let's just redo this
what's,
next one.
you can't find a meeting room on Tuesday?
Well, this room is full.
Can we ever use the conference room upstairs?
Well, the upstairs conference room, their smart TV that's doing the streaming is broken. Maybe it'll be fixed by then. We could do the following Monday. He's available.
Is there a problem with the council chambers?
I have to ask to use the council chambers because doing the minutes and the streaming is, yeah, I have to find out.
I don't like that upstairs conference room because we can barely fit ourselves. There's not enough room and there's no room for the general public. So if That's not a good room for for a work session.
September 14th work for you.
No, yeah. I mean, all I can say is I put these things down and then I do my other calendar events around, so. when
How
you
about the
start
digital
changing,
quarter
that just
conference
throws it
room?
off.
You can actually utilize that.
Does not work.
Go to the. It's streaming,
I had a chance for,
not sure that. I stream.
So the September 2nd or the 9th work,
It's September 2nd.
it's the first Wednesday. September 2nd or September 9th, does that work?
what are we doing on that day?
Works planning, work
But
session.
what are we doing? Yeah, that
I
works
guess we're
for-
talking about this.
Well, I mean, do we know what specifically we're gonna talk, we will not have had our interviews by then, or as you call them?
No, we were gonna get all the priority investment and stuff. You know. To you.
So it's just kind of,
Population chapter,
so you think we'll be looking at the population chapter, what else?
the capital improvement plan and the
Oh.
priority investment, the implementation strategy.
Oh, so you're gonna be sort of, it's sort of a long report meeting.
We could do, what about the 30th? That's a Monday.
Let me just understand what it is first. Is it basically a report meeting? Kurt, is that what you're doing?
30th. Yeah, I mean, I think so, yeah.
So we're not editing or coming here with ideas or thoughts or anything like that. We're just here. Hear reports from you on that stuff.
So you mean August 31st?
Well, that's easier. I'm just saying if any of us, such as myself, can't be here, then just.
So August
I'll listen
31st?
in.
How about August 31st for everybody? That work for you, Bill?
Let's see here.
I thought you were retired.
I do a lot of different things. No, I'm not. Yes and no. That probably will work, yeah. I think.
Working group on August 31st.
That would be the September. But we meet on the 17th, so if that needs to change. You all can change it on the 17th, planning commission.
Sorry. Real quick, I cannot attend week 17, depending on time, so I need thanks special application, is this sufficient?
Sufficient.
So we're putting down 31st
For the work session.
Does that work
for the work session,
Yeah.
1 to 4.
All right. So August 31st.
Same time, same bench in.
Show here.
That's the next work session.
It's not very nice, so.
Dude, I'm old, you don't have to try.
I'm pretty old.
Yeah, August 31st.
You want something?
You get the invites out. Everybody, so that we can get away for that one.
Well, we can start doing that. That was, you just, if everybody could follow up what days in September would be free to do stakeholder interviews this week, by the end of the week.
Do we want to start doing some on the 31st?
No. Let's get the city manager and the information they've got. Let's get our feet planted.
Do we want to invite the city manager on the 31st?
He was gonna give,
Sure. I can do.
yeah. And we'll all come back with our independent analysis and discussion. I think we need to have that first.
I mean, is this document available online in this format?
What do you mean with this?
Like if I went on City of Beaufort website, would I get exactly this on the website? Yeah,
But you wouldn't have this full out page or anything.
Oh, no, I'm just talking about to manipulate the document.
I mean, we actually have the Word files. Yeah, PDF somewhere.
Attorneys always like manipulate.
Oh, listen to that.
That's what works for you.
I was referring to the document.
We're talking August 31st, Monday for the
Monday.
work session.
1 o'clock.
Anybody else have anything else from the board for the table?
You passed my last week.
I hesitate to ask, but is there any other public comment before we leave?
Well,
Go ahead, Paul.
I just appreciate the opportunity to offer these suggestions, and I just look forward to continuing to participate, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. Good discussion today. Really appreciate the emphasis on transparency and engagement. That's really lovely to see. There is on the page where you can also find.
Could you start by telling us your name and address for the record?
Sure, do I need to stand over here?
Yeah, please.
Oh, okay.
Megan Morris, Beaufort Regional Chamber of Commerce, 1140 Reba Road. Trying to get my new address down. Thank you all for going through such a thorough process, your emphasis on public transparency and engagement. Really appreciated hearing all of that. On the website where you can find that packet of information, there is a link to a very short, just like 3-pager on here's how we conducted the process last time. And perhaps that would be helpful this time too, to have at your next meeting to kind of put all of the different comments in play and use as a notification to the public and stakeholder groups. I think that'd be really helpful. Because there's a lot discussed today and seeing it in one place that can be really helpful. I think it's great that you're inviting the city manager and talk about how this ties into and should relate with everything from budgets to civic master plan to current strategic plan, lots of things in place. So I think that's a great idea. I will say that, you know, for many of us, we'd like to see the status update that you all talked about a good bit of where things are. And that'll help us in our review to give back feedback. We won't waste time on things that are already at a different point, completed or et cetera. So I do think having that updated version with time to review, how many pages is it?
Wow.
It's a lot. I appreciate that y'all are taking this seriously and efficiently, but please remember that, you know, to Kurt's point of the public, whether you're an individual or an organization, you have a lot of things you're juggling and you want to get really solid, valuable input, which is what we would strive to give. Seeing the updates of the status, seeing the methodology and the way that this process will evolve would be helpful so that we're reviewing the most current thing and giving valuable input. And then in closing, I would just suggest, it sounds like you're doing this already, but worth stating, looking at all data points, as many data points as possible so that we're balancing opinion and input with data-driven statistics to make the best decisions. So just wanted to emphasize that point as well, but thank you for having this, glad to be here today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, thank you all. I'll take a motion for adjournment. Unless there's anything else.
That's a move. Yeah. Second.
Motion second.